Hello YouTube, it's me, Pro Digi here, and I have what I believe is going to be a start of a concept for this week. It is going to be X Antibody Week. And we can't do an X Antibody Week without starting off with the main man himself, Alphamon. Let's get into it. So this is my current build. I have struggled over and over to find a ratio that I think works, and so far I believe this is the best one that works for my liking. And in my studying of a better version to build with this thing, I have seen that several people do slightly different ratios. So you can actually tweak this a little bit compared to how you would like to run it. But this is going to be my indefinite take on it. So of course, starting off, we do have Doraemon as our egg. This is from BT7. He has your turn. Once per turn, when one of your effects places a Digivolution card under this Digimon, draw one card. Then, the only non-X antibody in this deck, we're running 3 copies of Ouryuken, the promo P033. You can also get this via the Beelzemon Advanced deck, and it may even be available in the Resurgence Booster. I'm not 100% certain. But he has the text of your turn. All of your black Digimon with 13 DP or 13,000 DP or more gain piercing. And then his inheritable is, while this Digimon is black and has 13,000 DP or more, this Digimon gains security attack +1. Then, I'm running a single copy of Doraemon from BT9. He has on play, you may trash 1 card with X antibody in its traits from your hand to draw 2 cards. Then I am running 4 copies of BT7 Doraemon. He has on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 card with X antibody in its traits, and 1 Kota Demoto among them to your hand, and place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. His inheritable is your turn. Once per turn, when one of your effects places a Digivolution card under this Digimon, gain 1 memory. It is worth noting that if you do trigger that effect and you place a card underneath him, and you're placing this card itself underneath him, the inheritable will see that you are placing itself under there. So let's say you have a stack that does not have this particular Doraemon in it, but you trigger an effect to place it there, it will see that it's placing itself, and therefore you will gain the memory. Next, I'm running just 2 copies, because I feel like that's all you need, of Ouryuken from BT8. He has on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 card with X antibody in its traits, and 1 Yuji Masuya among them to your hand, and place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. He also has the inheritable. While this Digimon has X antibody in its traits, it gains Decoy Black, which basically means when one of your other black Digimon would be deleted by an opponent's effect, you may delete this Digimon to prevent that deletion. So he gives you a little bit of some pseudo protection for other stuff. Alright, so moving on to our champions. We are running 3 copies of Dourugamon from BT13. He has a nice cheap on-play cost of 4, so if you are hurting for a rookie, it will not hurt to go ahead and just play this guy for 4. Otherwise, he can Evo for 2. The only thing else he has is an inheritable that says all turns, while this Digimon has X antibody trait, it gets 1000 DP. Then we're running 2 copies of Dourugamon from BT7. This has a 6 hard play cost, 2 to Evo. Opponent's turn, while you have another Digimon in play with X antibody in its traits, or a card with X antibody in its traits is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, this Digimon gains Blocker. Inheritable is all turns. While this Digimon has X antibody trait, it gets 1000 DP. Next, we are running 4 copies of Dex Darugamon. Now, he can Evo on a purple or black for 3, but he does have the black box text of Digivolves from Darugamon for 0. When Digivolving, you may trash 1 card with Dex or with Death X in its name or X antibody in its traits in your hand to gain 1 memory. So when you do Evo into him, he actually can gain you memory. He costs nothing, and that is good to me. Now, when Digivolving, if this Digimon has Darugamon in its Digivolution cards, or is Digivolving from the trash, which we'll get to another deck later that does that, one of your Digimon gains Blocker and Retaliation until the end of your opponent's turn. So that floating effect of Blocker and Retaliation can come quite handy. Now going into our level 5s, we are running our poor boy Doro Greymon here, who got limited to 1 per deck, but I can see why, but I still miss him. He has when Digivolving, you may place 1 black card with X antibody against traits from your hand at the bottom of this Digimon's Digivolution cards to prevent the effects from deleting it or reducing its DP until the end of your opponent's next turn. He has the inheritable of your turn. While this Digimon has X antibody in its traits, you get Security Tech +1. Then we're running 4 copies of Doro Greymon from BT13. He has when Digivolving, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, place 1 card with the X antibody trait among them as this Digimon's bottom Digivolution card. If a card was placed by this effect, this Digimon's DP can't be reduced until the end of your opponent's turn. Trash the rest. Inheritable. End of your turn, once per turn, you may place 1 Digimon card with X antibody trait from your hand as this Digimon's bottom Digivolution card. So he can help you keep building your sources. Then I'm running just 2 copies of Dex Doro Greymon. We will usually never actually Digivolve into him unless we just want to get that draw, or we want to have more cards in stacks for a future ability play, or we just really need to delete a body, and here's why. He can Digivolve from a black for 4, or he Digivolves on top of a Doro Greymon for 1. When Digivolving, you may trash 1 card with Dex or Death X in its name or X antibody in its traits in your hand to gain 1 memory. When Digivolving, if this Digimon has Doro Greymon in its traits or is Digivolving from trash, delete 1 of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. Now, we move on to the Megas. And again, I've seen people play different ratios and ones at this point. But here is my selection for this. I am sticking to a 2-and-2 split of 2 copies of Alphamon from BT9 and 2 copies of Alphamon from BT13. Now, the BT9 one, he has a Digivolution cost of 3. When Digivolving, place 1 card with X antibody and its traits from your trash under this Digimon as its bottom Digivolution card. And your turn, once per turn, when an effect places a Digivolution card under this Digimon, de-Digivolve 1 of your opponent's Digimon. The other one has a Digivolution cost of 4, but he has an on-play when Digivolving effect of by placing 1 Digimon card with X antibody or a Royal Knight trait from your trash as this Digimon's bottom Digivolution card, all of your opponent's play cost of 10 or higher Digimon can't attack players until the end of their turn. All turns once per turn, when an effect would remove this Digimon from the battle area by returning one card with X Antibody trait or Royal Knight trait from this Digimon's Digivolution cards to the bottom of the deck, prevent that removal. So the reason why I go with a 2-2 split on these is because I like them both. They both have their merits. This one obviously actually plays a bigger role because he can absorb the missing pieces you need for your bigger plays and de-digivolve the opponent. This one can actually be hard played or digivolved in a pinch to get that effect off. But what I really like is how you could actually, if you're desperate enough mid to late game, just hard play this, get the piece that you want to absorb underneath him, which will be obvious soon, and they can rather try to remove him right away with all that memory you gave them, or it will stick around on the field to become a bigger problem. And even if they do try and remove you, you just absorb the source, which means you can then activate your second effect to get rid of that source and still stick around. So I just love the options of both. Now our other level 6, we will usually not digivolve into, but if we had to in a pinch, we can. And that is Ouryuken. He has, when digivolving, you may place one card with X Antibody in its traits from your hand under this Digimon as its bottom Digivolution card to delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 7 or less. Your turn, once per turn, when one of your effects places a Digivolution card under this Digimon gets plus 2000 DP and can't be deleted by your opponent's effects until the end of your opponent's next turn. Now, I believe there's actually an errata on that of where that last part actually says not so much this Digimon, but I believe you can choose any Digimon. I'm not really sure, but since I'm not planning on digivolving into this guy unless I have to, that's not going to come up. We mainly run him in here for his inheritable, because he becomes Alphamon's signature weapon. His inheritable is End of Attack. Once per turn, if this Digimon has Alphamon in its name, unsuspend it. And please take note that if you have multiple copies of this under your Alphamon, they all will trigger at the same time. So ideally, you want to swing and then place this underneath him somehow, bit by bit. You don't want to actually swing with several of him underneath it. You want to take it a bit at a time. You want to put one underneath Aphamon, swing, inheritable activate, unsuspend, and then if you choose to, you can activate one of your mini effects that can do that, and that's to place another one underneath him when you swing again, and now the new one will trigger. So please keep that in mind. And then last, our main big boss monster for the deck, 3 copies of our level 7 Alphamon Ouryuken. This is the form he takes when he combines his Digicore with that of Ouryumon, and Ouryumon transforms into his weapon. He can digivolve from a level 6 for 7 cost, so you can digivolve on top of Ouryumon if you need to, but it is a hefty cost to pay. You mainly want to try and digivolve this on top of Alphamon with an Ouryumon in its Digivolution cards, because then it will only be a cost of 3. When digivolving, delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the highest play cost. Then he has end of your turn once per turn. You may return up to 7 non-Digi-Egg cards with X Antibody in their traits from this Digimon's Digivolution cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. If you do, gain 1 memory for each card returned. So yes, Alphamon can pull a little Jojo Bizarre Adventure action and activate the world and turn back the clock enough to maintain his turn and have a bunch of memory. And that's why I like him, because he kind of reminds me of Jojo. Now on to the Tamers. We are running 2 copies of Kota. He's going to be the memory fixer for the deck. If you have 2 or less memory at the start of your turn, set to 3. On play, you get to reveal the top 4 cards of your deck and add 1 card with X antibody trait among them to your hand and place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. Then we're running 2 copies of Yuji. He has, when one of your Digimon with X antibody and its traits is moved from the breeding area to the battle area, gain a memory and draw a card. He also has the effect of your turn, when one of your black Digimon with X antibody and its traits attacks, you may suspend this tamer to place 1 card with X antibody in its traits from your hand under that Digimon as its bottom Digivolution card. This goes back to like I was mentioning with Ouryuken. So you'll be ideally in the right setup. Swing with Alphamon with Ouryuken underneath. Unsuspend. Swing again. Tap this to place a new Ouryuken and get to unsuspend again. And then last but not least, we're running 4 copies of Cool Boy. He has on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck and add 1 Digimon card with the X antibody in its traits and 1 option card with X antibody among them to your hand. Place the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. Your turn, when one of your Digimon digivolves into the same level Digimon with X antibody and its traits, you may suspend this tamer to gain a memory and draw a card. So you can gain a lot of memory and a lot of card draw with this deck. Then we're moving on to our option cards. Now we are running the actual X antibody option card because why not? It helps for those big swings and we can actually manage to Evo during the swing. It has, while you have a Digimon in play, you may use this card without meeting its color requirements. Security effect is to gain a memory and add this card to your hand. Main effect is to place this card at the bottom Digivolution card of one of your opponent's Digimon with X antibody. All turns, effects can't trash X antibody in this Digivolution. And then when attacking, this Digimon can Digivolve into a Digimon card with X antibody trait in your hand for the Digivolution cost. So yes, it's basically there to help you Evo during a swing, as well as to be an inheritable source that will not be stripped. Then I'm running 2 copies of Congo. Until the end of your opponent's turn, your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 7 or less can't attack players, and cards can't be added to security stacks by your opponent's effects. So helps keep the smaller guys from going wide and swinging at you, as well as hinders those yellow recovery decks. Then I'm running 2 copies of Black Memory Boost. You reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, add 1 Black Digimon card. The remaining cards go to the bottom in any order. Then this goes to the battle area to be popped later, in which, if you do pop it later, you gain 2 memory. And then finally, our last card for the deck, we're running a single copy of Final Zubagong Punch, because we can easily hit the threshold of 13,000 DP, in which this card becomes fully active. Main effect is one of your Digimon gets plus 3,000 DP until the end of your opponent's next turn. Then if that Digimon has 16,000 DP or more, that Digimon gains blocker, reboot, and security attack plus 1. Its security effect is to add this card to your hand. So you're going to rather draw into this eventually through your mini Digivolutions and card drawing, or the security effect will add it to your hand for your big finish. That has been our take on Alphamon. Now next, we're going to look at Alphamon's evil brother / twin. And that is going to be the Dex Dex Dorugamon line, or better known as Death Xmon. Until then, this has been Prodigious. I hope you enjoyed these little deck profiles and reviews, and I will see you next time.